Hey, welcome to another video. So today we're going to be going into the fate of King Aegon II Targaryen, but before we begin, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, a quick reminder that anyone who becomes a join member at any level will get a thank you banner at the beginning of every video and a shout out at the end. Thanks, let's jump straight into it. The Moon of the Three Kings, also called the Moon of Madness, was a period in 130 AC near the end of the Dance of the Dragons, when there were multiple monarchs in King's Landing. These included a preacher, the so-called shepherd, and two pretender kings, Trystane Truefire, a hedge knight squire, and Gaemon Palahair, the son of a whore. Despite its name, the period lasted longer than a month. King Aegon II escaped King's Landing during its fall to Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen, his half-sister and rival monarch. Rhaenyra ruled the city for only half a year, before she abandoned King's Landing in the aftermath of riots during the 5th moon of 130 AC. Although he did not declare himself king, the shepherd, the man who had instigated the storming of the Dragon Pit, commanded a mob of tens of thousands from the Dragon Pit on Rhaenys Hill. He advised his followers to cast aside their possessions and live more humbly, but his influence began to wane. Sir Perkin the Flea, a hedge knight and leader of the rioters, claimed that his squire, Trystane Truefire, was a bastard son of the late Viserys I Targaryen, the father of Rhaenyra and Aegon. After Rhaenyra fled King's Landing, Sir Garth the Harelip surrendered the Red Keep to Perkin, who then installed Trystane on the Iron Throne. Perkin executed Garth and Sir Harman of the Reeds, among other knights, and he forced Mysaria to be whipped naked through the streets, which caused her death. Perkin spared Septon Eustace and freed all the prisoners held in the Red Keep's dungeons, including Grand Maester Orwell, Lord Corlys Velaryon, and Sir Tywin Lannister. Queen Dowager Alicent Hightower was likewise freed from her confinement. Perkin was aided by Lord Larry Strong. The second pretender king was Gaemon Palahair, the 4-year-old son of Essie, a whore who claimed the boy had been fathered by Aegon II. Given Aegon's philandering ways, this did not seem as improbable. Gaemon ruled from the House of Kisses atop Visenya's hill, and gathered thousands of followers. He issued a series of edicts, including a declaration that females should be equal to males in matters of inheritance. Mushroom claimed that these edicts were almost certainly the work of Sylvania Sand, a Dornish whore and a paramour of Essie. Aegon II, hiding on Dragonstone, recuperated from injuries suffered at Rook's Rest. With Rhaenyra on the mainland, Aegon's Greens took her castle through the fall of Dragonstone. In the 10th moon of 130 AC, Rhaenyra was killed by Aegon's dragon Sunfire, when she returned to Dragonstone. Sunfire succumbed to his own wounds in the 12th moon of that year. After mourning Sunfire, Aegon II readied plans to recover the Iron Throne in chaotic King's Landing. Lord Boros Baratheon led men from the Stormlands to bring order to the capital on the king's behalf. Sir Perkin was imprisoned, and Trystane Truefire was executed once Aegon took the city, though not before he received the boon of knighthood. Essie admitted that Gaemon had been the son of an oarsman from Lys, and was hanged. Gaemor Palahair was arrested, but then accepted into Aegon's household. Aegon had the shepherd's tongue torn out, and then the king had the shepherd and his most devoted followers burned to death. The Battle of the Kingsroad, called the Muddy Mess by those who fought in it, was the last battle of the Dance of the Dragons. It took place between the Greens and the Blacks on the Kingsroad, not far from King's Landing. Despite the death of Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen, there were still those who fought against King Aegon the Elder. Lord Boros Baratheon, who had been reluctant to face the dragons in a war personally, had seized King's Landing during the Moon of the Three Kings, and restored the city to Aegon's rule. He had gathered an army of nearly 6,000 men to Storm's End earlier in the war. Lord Elmo Tully had gathered nearly 6,000 men to Riverrun, including Lord Benjicott Blackwood and his aunt Black Aly, Lady Sabitha Frey, Lord Hugo Vance, Lord Jorah Mallister, Lord Roland Derry, and Lord Humphrey Bracken. Command passed to his son Kermit Tully after Elmo had died during the march. With a host of rivermen marching towards the city, Boros decided to march with his strength against all that remained of Rhaenyra's forces. In the last days of the war, Boros joined by levies from Duskendale, Hayford, Rossby, and Stokeworth, houses that had originally sworn to Rhaenyra but bent the knee after Aegon defeated them and took political hostages. Boros was also supplemented with 2,000 poorly armed levies scraped up from the alleys of Flea Bottom. The Baratheon army was larger and unbloodied, but conversely was less experienced. Boros had cynically delayed his forces from taking any meaningful action against Rhaenyra's field armies in the entire war up to that point. The army of Rivermen may have been smaller, but it was more battle-hardened. Some of them survivors of every major battle in the Riverlands since the beginning of the war, particularly the Blackwoods, who had fought in the battle by the Burning Mill. the massive battle by the lakeshore, and the Second Battle of Tumbleton. The two forces met on the King's Road 2 days away from King's Landing, where the road passed between a forest and a hill. The ground was muddy after several days of rain. Unafraid of the boys and women leading the rivermen, the confident Lord Boros Baratheon led the charge at dusk. Positioned on the hill, Alysanne Blackwood's longbowmen broke Boros' cavalry charge, and the disorganized riders who managed to reach the rivermen's shield were slowed by the mud. The Baratheon infantry nearly broke through the shields, but they were then attacked in the flank from the forest by Benjacob Blackwood. The soldiers from Hayford, Rossby, and Stokeworth refused to join the fight, and the rabble from Flea Bottom fled the field. The knights from Duskendale switched sides outright by attacking the Stormlanders in the rear. Although he was able to kill numerous men during the battle, including Lords Rosalind Derry and Jorah Mallister, Boros had been wounded several times before he faced Lord Cormac Tully, the Lord of Riverend killed in the Lord of Storm's End with his Morning Star after Boros refused to surrender. The lads Cormac Tully, his brother Oscar, and bloody Ben Blackwood advanced on King's Landing, as they were only a stone's throw removed from the city. New armies supported the Prince Aegon the Younger were also advancing, as Lord Cregan Stark was marching down the King's Road with his own host, leaving the tidings severe for King Aegon II. Aegon the Elder had lost the war, which was plain for those advising him, but not to the king himself. Lord Corlys Velaryon, now serving on King Aegon's small council, advised him that the only remaining option was to surrender and take the Black. King Aegon refused, and gave orders to have the ear of his nephew Aegon the Younger cut off as a warning. King Aegon was carried back to his chambers in his litter, but when the litter arrived and the curtains were lifted, the king was found dead, the blood on his lips, having been poisoned. The hour of the wolf followed once Cregan reached the capital. With King Aegon II Targaryen dead, Aegon the Younger was crowned as King Aegon III Targaryen. Although Aegon II's host had been defeated by the Velaryon fleet once more served the Iron Throne, the period that followed was named the False Dawn. The realm faced numerous problems. The cruel winter that had begun the year before on Maiden's Day of 130 AC would last until 135 AC. Much of the realm had been burned out by dragonfire, in particular Aemon Targaryen's one-man war-riding Vhagar, which had burned out most of the Riverlands. Broken men and outlaws roamed the countryside in the hundreds of thousands, and public order had collapsed in many places. The Ironborn, now under the command of Dalton Greyjoy, who had anomalously died with the Blacks as a pretext to attack wealthy green kingdoms, now refused to acknowledge the boy King Aegon III's commands to stop raiding. Lord Cregan Stark and his northern army of childless, homeless, and younger men had marched to King's Landing with hopes of adventure. The sudden death of King Aegon II had robbed them of that chance, leaving Cregan furious. He had wanted to punish Storm's End, Castle Rock, and Old Town for having supported King Aegon over Rhaenyra, but upon his arrival, Lord Corlys Velaryon had already sent out ravens suing for peace. So what did you guys think of the fate of King Aegon? Please let me know in the comments down below. If you haven't already, please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Sith Citadel Discord, link is in the description, and consider becoming a join member. Anyone who does will get a thank you banner at the beginning of every video and a shout out at the end. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.